13. Welcome back as Monday continues. Still ahead, something tasty with Krista Van Wagner as we join her at the Auburn Watson Culinary Arts Center. Right now, though, we're inviting you to take a fresh look at one of Buffalo's most historic neighborhoods. We're talking about Broadway Fillmore and what's happening on Buffalo's East Side. The grandeur of the East Side is on full display with church tours underway. Lots of things going on at local parishes, at Corpus Christi, and in the Broadway Fillmore area, especially with Easter not that far away. We're talking about everything happening in the historic neighborhood, and I'm joined here on the Channel 13 set by Carol Bronnenkant. Carol is with Friends of Corpus Christi, and Chris Byrd joins us once again. Chris is with Broadway Fillmore Alive. Welcome back to the program, both of you.
Thank you.
It's super timely to have you here now, Carol, because we talk a lot about what's happening in that area, and at Easter time, it seems like there's a lot of things bubbling up in the vicinity.
Absolutely. There's a lot of tradition that really makes the holiday, and Corpus Christi Church celebrates those centuries-old traditions. So it's a great time, whether you're Polish or not, to come down to the East Side and just to partake in these things.
And certainly having a parish at the center of neighborhood activities is very old school in its own way.
Absolutely, yes. And for our ancestors, that was the center of their lives. Regardless of your ethnic background, your church or your place of worship was the center of your life in the United States.
Chris, let's talk a little bit in a broader scope about what's happening in the area. A lot of positive attention is being focused on it.
Yeah, well, obviously with Easter coming, the Broadway market is the Easter epicenter for Western New York. And what's interesting this year, a lot of different organizations are tapping into that, like Corpus Christi. They're having, and help me out here, Carol, what is it exactly called that you guys are doing with the pictures of a traditional...
Oh, picturing a Polish Easter. And these are photographs that are actually part of a larger collection in the Library of Congress. And this was done back in the 1940s as a project that took place in various cities across the United States, showing people in their place of worship. And so this is part of a collection that was on display last year, and the response was so huge that we're doing it again just for a few days right before Easter.
That's nice to hear. I remember we did a segment on the show about that.
Yes.
And I think it was a government commission project
or
something along those lines.
Right.
Very popular.
And of course we have Dingus Day, the day after Easter, which is going to be huge this year. Actually, Central Terminal is going to have their first Dingus Day party in over 20 years, which is very exciting.
We're happy because Russell Pavlak from the Central Terminal will be joining us on the show in a couple of weeks to talk about that.
That's great. We're going to have actually a Dingus Day parade this year for Easter. Let's get back to the churches, though, a little more, because I'll say let the Dingus people have their day. It's very interesting, and through the hard work of people like Carol, we have a number of all of the churches in the Broadway Fillmore area. Very historic, very traditional in their faith. They're authentic. And one of the biggest things I have about places like the Broadway Fillmore area is that you can't reinvent these type of things. Here you have old world churches with old world's craftsmanship inside, built on the sweat and blood of our forefathers. Churches like St. Adalbert's and Corpus Christi, and you walk into any one of the churches over there, and I hate talking about any one in specific, but if you walk into St. Stan's or Corpus Christi or St. Luke's or St. Stan's, St. Luke's, Corpus Christi, I want to make sure I include all of them. Okay.
St. Anne's.
St. Anne's on Broadway.
St. Stanislaus?
St. Stanislaus. There's Precious Blood and St. John Canty. You walk in and literally, I mean, your breath is taken away because you're transported back to a bygone era of when these churches were humming with activity, and you're seeing a renewed interest in the neighborhood, and I think it captures in the authenticity, is that here you have, like I said, you don't have to reinvent anything. Here you have these wonderful churches, and people love it, and that's what we're trying to tap into. So,
and Carol, it's the architecture of the churches to an extent, but it's the community and the ethnicity and the faith community that they represent that is also a vital part of the tours.
It is, and actually one of the parishioners at Corpus Christi likened the churches that we have in the city of Buffalo to America's pyramids. And this is certainly not unique just to Buffalo, but it's this history, this legacy of houses of worship that were built by immigrants, really tremendous signs of faith by people who had very little, but who were banking on a new life. And to walk into these places, as Chris has talked about, is an emotional experience, just like if you were to go to, let's say, Gettysburg, you know, someplace where something very tremendous has happened. I think that stays in that place, and you experience it to some extent when you visit.
Now, the next tour of churches is coming up in April.
In April
17th.
right, April 17th.
How many? What's included? How many churches will be seen?
It's St. Stanislaus, Corpus Christi, St. Adalbert's, and then lunch at the Broadway Market. So you get the whole experience.
You know, and it's good to have you here as well, talking not only about the churches but about the Broadway Market. And Chris, this is the time of year when everybody focuses on the Broadway Market, but we want to expand out beyond that, beyond the season of Lent, and let people know that the Broadway Market is vibrant, that it's dynamic, that things are happening year-round at the market.
Well, and one of the things that we've really started over the last, it started with around the Christmas time, and they were on, Carol was on the show with Sandy Starks. Savor the Flavor of the Market, which is going to be an ongoing series of food demonstrations throughout the year. We have a great Christmas planned for the market.
Yes.
Good.
Where we're going to tap in again to the traditions. It's going to be an old world Christmas fair, Thanksgiving weekend. But there are things. The market, interesting, somebody wrote on our Broadway Fillmore Live site, is they were talking about the Broadway Market, and they're saying, you know, Easter's wonderful and great, but you know, everything that you get around Easter time is there 365 days a year, and we're hoping to build that reputation back in. You know, it is, and I can't stress enough, the authenticity is that there's nothing like it in Western New York. The whole neighborhood, it's unique unto itself. We're starting to refer to the neighborhood as the historic Polonia district, and it's just
a good hook.
It is a. I credit Marty Binias on that. I want to say, Marty, if you're watching this, I don't want to.
Yeah,
right. But it's really it's an untapped resource, I think, for cultural aspects.
You mentioned there's not really anything like it in Western New York. Carol, I'd say there's not many things like the historic Polonia district or the Broadway Market in America. These are the kind of communities that other cities want to have incorporated in themselves.
That's true.
Well,
That's true.
And like I said, it's not something you can't reinvent. This. I mean, it was organic. It just happened. It's there, and you can't magically make it happen somewhere else. And it's very cool. So.
Absolutely an exciting season down at the Broadway Market and around the East Side. If people want more information about Grandeur of the East Side Tours, how do they get that, Carol?
They can just call 332-4235, and this is a day-long tour. It includes everything. So it's deluxe motor coach transportation. It includes the lunch at the Broadway Market and a guided tour. And Bill Cook is the guide for these tours, and he is just a walking fountain of information. He's a former teacher. He can't help himself, but he makes it so enjoyable. So people really have a great time. He has a following.
He's real easy to talk to. I can
He
personally attest to that. And Chris, tell us a little bit about Broadway Fillmore Live. If people want to find out about your activities, how can they connect with you?
You can go to BroadwayFillmoreLive.org on the internet. We carry all types of information on all the groups in the Broadway Fillmore area. It's basically one-stop shopping for everything in the historic Polonia district.
Lots of stuff happening. Boy, thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you.
It'll be a lot of fun. Now check it out for yourself. Western New York, things happening in one of the city's most historic neighborhoods, historic Polonia. Sounds good. Check it out for yourself. We're taking a break, and when we come back, we go on the road and join Krista Van Wagner. She's continuing with culinary arts at Auburn Watson. Find out more when Crossroads continues.